All right, I think we're going to make a start. I think everybody who is likely to join is joining. So welcome to this. I should know whether it's the third or fourth webinar in our Kwiklearn series, but I can't remember. I never could count. I'm Phil Hearn, and I'm presenting today, how does the CYS platform change MR? So the CYS platform is something that's new that we're offering, and the idea of this webinar is to sort of talk about how it affects market research and what it looks like, I guess, so you can get a snapshot of it and see whether you want to learn more about it. So the program for today really breaks into sort of three bits. I'm going to first of all talk about for some of the things that I think need to change in market research, and so why, if you like, the CYS platform is very relevant at the moment. I'm going to talk about some of the practicalities of putting dashboards together. It's not a topic that's talked about very much, I don't think, and I'd like to just sort of introduce those who haven't perhaps ever worked with a dashboard or put a dashboard together, or perhaps thought about the practicality of putting a dashboard together, some of the things to look for, because on one end of the spectrum they're quite simple, and on the other end there's a lot to think about. So I'd like to give you some pointers there that I think will help you when you perhaps come to do dashboards, if not for the first time, but perhaps do it on a more regular basis. And of course, I'm going to take you through what the CYS platform actually offers you. This is a really good topic for me today. I think it's one that I probably enjoy presenting more than many others, if you like. I know one of my clients recently called me Mr. Data, which I don't know if that's a compliment or not really. Makes me sound like a computer, I guess. It is one thing that really does interest me, is the whole business of not just doing data processing and producing results from data, but actually delivering that data. And I think it's something that market research to some extent has failed on, and still has a long way to go to be anywhere near good enough, in my opinion. So let's look at how market research has worked. I would argue for over 20 years now. It doesn't seem like that, but I think it was in 1995 that Microsoft brought out a piece of software called PowerPoint, and that had a big impact on the way we worked. People who have not been in market research more than 25 years won't remember putting acetates onto projectors to make their presentations. But we've had PowerPoint around, I would say, certainly seriously since 1997, when they produced a much more upgraded version. And our process has been, to a great extent, that we collect data on questionnaires. That's nothing new to anybody. We've been doing that for more than 25 years, for 50 years or more even. More recently, we've perhaps been collecting data online, where respondents can enter their data themselves in online surveys. And of course, we have interviewers now going out with tablets, doing their surveys on using CAPI software, and that's all something that's been around now for quite a few years. And what we do with it then, we do some number crunching on it, normally in the form of tables. Sometimes it's producing just counts depending on the size of the survey, but really nothing has changed. And our destination has always tended to be, or often has tended to be, that we put the data into a PowerPoint presentation. And there's perhaps two types. There's ones that are reports that we give to clients, and ones that we use to present results to clients, and they can be subtly different, or maybe one's part of the other. But I've long thought that market research would be more valuable if it was delivered better. And whilst I'm nothing against a PowerPoint presentation, it's got lots of nice tools in it to do all sorts of nice things. I'm actually using one now, as you would probably guess. It is limited. It is a static report. It is just like, it's not much different from the days when it used to be printed off on paper. People look at them on their computers now, but it is static. You can't go any further than what it tells you, and it's not a particularly convenient way of accessing data that you want to look at. So, you know, it's not the best way of conveying results. So whilst PowerPoint might have its place, I don't think it's the answer to optimizing how we deliver market research surveys. And I've long thought that the solution is online dashboards. And online dashboards means that your client and your researchers can get access to surveys, and I really do think that market research would be more valuable if it was delivered better, and a dashboard is a way of delivering it. So I think this is the goal that we're aiming for, something like this that can be used anywhere, so that whether a client or a researcher is sitting at the desk, they can look at their data in a way that means something to them. If they're on the go, they're sitting on a train or in a plane or anything else, they can look at stuff on their phone, but it's instantly accessible data that they've got access to, and they can delve into it and dig a bit further. If they want to look at that infographic that we're looking at now, and they want to look at it perhaps for people over 35, they can just click on a couple of buttons and the graphic updates. Obviously, with a PowerPoint presentation, you just can't do that. And the reason that we want to deliver data like this, I think, is to a great extent, if you think about most businesses, most offices, most people in most offices have access to their data now. If you contact a call center, that call center will know everything they need to do to actually service you, usually, not always, but usually they should do, I should say, perhaps there. So they have access to the data they need to service you effectively. If you go into a bank, they will have the information they need to service you at their hand. And people using market research surveys should have that data at their fingertips so they can use it when they want it and how they want it. And it really is, I think, important that we start to deliver that as an industry. And I think it would add value to what we offer as an industry if we can succeed in doing that. So why are online dashboards important? Well, as I said just now, I think to meet client expectations, clients, I think, expect data to be available in dashboards because most of their other business data is there available on their computer screen to work with and play with and dig into to the depth that they need to. And we've got some great excuses in market research. We have excuses like we have so much data in our surveys, we have too much data. Market research data is, I've always believed, almost unique. I can find very few parallels in the sense that most business data is thousands or even millions of records in some cases with a very small number of fields, the fields of which are usually single response answers, so or quantities. So for example, a bank might hold information about your gender, your address, your balance, and all these sorts of bits of information, but they're quite small numbers of fields, but they will have perhaps thousands or millions of records on their databases that they need to have access to. Market research, it tends to be the opposite way round, that we actually survey quite a small number of people. Usually we might survey 500 people or 1,000 people, but we have hundreds of fields of data with perhaps, I don't know, 500, 1,000 fields sometimes. So our data is the opposite shape, if you like, to most other business data. And yes, that's an excuse. That's a good reason why we can't put our data into dashboards, because we have so many fields of data for each respondent. But it's not good enough just to sort of fall back on that, I don't think, and say, well, I'm sorry, we can't put your data in a dashboard or it's too complicated. If clients expect it, we should be in the position that we should be able to deliver it. And I think the other thing that's really quite important is that market research data could be more valuable if it was delivered alongside other business data. And often that's not done, or it's very limited what's done, and it's rarely automated. It should be part of a process that automates the delivery of your survey data. And I think of things there like sales data, advertising spend, targets that your clients might have, and other KPIs that are important to their particular business. And if we could deliver our survey data alongside this other business data, I think it would actually give market research a much higher profile, and you would become, I think, much more valuable to your clients as well, because they'll be seeing your survey data alongside other data that perhaps has even more weight, but certainly is highly important to them, and it would carry with it that extra weight. And of course, I think the other thing about online dashboards is they should and are available anywhere, anytime. Whenever you want to access them, they should be there so that you can dig into them and find out what it is you want to find out about from your survey data, alongside, of course, your other business data. So why don't we just supply online dashboards? Well, there's some good reasons. They are ridiculously expensive, most of them. There's a few out there that are in the market. There's programs like Deprezi, Confirm It, Tableau, but they work out highly expensive. You're probably talking a minimum spend of $20,000 a year, and probably much more if you want to distribute it far and wide, and certainly even more if you wanted to do it on every project, or make a dashboard available on every project. So there's some real barriers, and that is just cost. The average market research project does not have the budget to put into a dashboard, because the software that goes with it and the costs of delivering it just become too much in terms of the value of that project. And for most systems, it's too time consuming. So it's not something that you can deliver on the back of your survey. It's not really much good if you deliver a dashboard 2 months after the survey's finished, when perhaps the shelf life of that survey is only 1 month. So it needs to be something that you can deliver as part of the process, just like the way you might deliver tabulations, or you have figures that you put into your PowerPoint presentations. It needs to be deliverable at pretty much at the same time as the rest of the research. And the other thing you might say is, well, there's not really any suitable tools available. There are some free ones out there. There are some of the sort of low cost or even free online data collection tools, to their credit, I should say, do have the ability to produce some counts, some tables, and in some cases, some online dashboards. And I think that's good. It's a step in the right direction, being able to make that. Of course, by their very nature, they're very automated and with very little choice in pretty much every case. But they have a place. I think the fact that it does at least mean you're going to give a client some access to their data. And many of the online dashboard systems that are also quite good and are already available, if they're not expensive to just actually subscribe to, like such as Tableau, they are perhaps based on a per project basis, and they start at something like £3,000 or £4,000 on $5,000 per project, which again would be outside the budget of what I call a standard medium to small medium market research project. What we're looking at is something today which is completely different. There is a subscription service so that you can join it for a month or for a year, where you get slightly better rates, but you're not talking about that level of investment. And also, if you add more projects, you're not talking about adding much to your cost. So you're talking about a system today, or I'm talking about a system today, which starts, there is a very low cost version, but about £290, which is about $350, I think, a month to use. And then that gives you so many projects. I think it's 3 projects, and you can add more projects to that for something like, I think about $100 a month. So we're talking about something that really is a bit of a game changer and a different pricing, but it's a bit more than that as well. So I want to now, sorry, I've gone the wrong way. I want to talk to you about the CYS platform, because that's where I'm leading to today. I've given you some background to where market research is. This is the CYS platform I'm going to present today, and I think it's a game changer in market research. I'm interested that sort of other platforms like Tableau sort of really do present themselves as business information platforms. I went to their website yesterday, and it just clearly says that Tableau is a business information software that helps people see and understand their data. That's their headline on their front page. And what the CYS platform is a bridge between market research and business information software, but at an affordable price that you can use on every survey. So what is the CYS platform? Well, actually, it's a system that goes from data collection through to data management, through to delivery and data visualization in the form of dashboards. It was released September last year. It is part of an old system, but it's, I would say, unrecognizable from the original system. The original system was much more focused towards, if you like, mystery shopping and customer experience feedback. This is a much wider system that's all about being able to handle all the data you want, and I'll talk about that in much more detail in a little while. And the goals when it was designed back in 2016 was that A, it was affordable, B, that it was comprehensive. It can do all the things that you wanted to do to get good looking dashboards, but also manage the data that went into them. It had advanced data management, and I'm going to talk about data management in a minute. It certainly produced high quality dashboards and allowed you to develop your own or have your own infographics of completely of your choice. So some really sort of big goals there, but I think all of those have been achieved. So the CYS platform comes with 3 modules. It has an online data collection module, so it has a complete module for sending out, developing questionnaires, sending out those questionnaires, and being able to retrieve that information, remind people that they haven't filled in the questionnaire yet, all the sorts of things you would expect of an online data collection tool. I'm not going to talk about that much today. I'm focusing much more on the latter 2 parts, which is the data management and the actual dashboards that it produces. So they're the 3 modules, if you like, that come with the system. They're all included. You don't have to buy each one. They just all fit together. So a CYS platform, a project flow, if you use the system as an end-to-end system, which you might do for a customer experience client or something like that, you would use the data collection module, which you can use for collecting data on any device that you choose. You can then manage all that data on your system. And as I said in the earlier part of the presentation, if you want to pull in other data, you can do that, so that you could pull other data together, and then you can deliver that as an online dashboard so that your clients can browse that and investigate that. And all the tools are in there to manage your data in the way that you want. So it goes a lot further than just being, if you like, an online system for collecting data, managing data, producing a dashboard. You could feed in other data that you've got. So it might be data from your tabulation software that you use. It could be some data you've got sitting in an Excel spreadsheet. It could be some percentages that you've just got as targets that are sitting around that you want to just type in as targets to appear on infographics or charts. It could be any source of data, and the managing of the data is sort of one of the keys to the CYS platform. So it's not just a system for collecting data through to delivering it, it's for pulling all your data together that you want to put into your online dashboard, as much as collecting data. And indeed, there are many users of this platform who don't actually use the data collection tools. They may have their preferred data collection tool. It could be Snap, it could be Confirm it could be anything you wanted to use. It could be one of the free ones like SurveyMonkey, or cheaper ones like SurveyMonkey. It could be any system that you wanted to, and you would want to plug into that quite possibly the other business data, such as sales figures, targets, and so on. And then, having done that, you can start to produce dashboards of your choice. So for the data collection module, I'm not going to spend too long on this today. As I say, the focus is on data management and on delivery. You can do all the things that you would want to do when you're collecting data. So you can have your own branding. You can have all of the types of questions that you're familiar with. I'm not going to go through those in detail now. You can use audio and video to either convey information or to collect information as collected information. You can apply scoring systems so that you could say that respondents who go to each outlet, for example, could get scores depending on their answers to different questions, so that you could have perhaps a target of a total of 50 points that someone can score. If respondent 1 scored 40 points, you could say they got 80% of the maximum. The next respondent maybe got 70%, and you could produce averages on those figures. And all of this is available on desktop, online, so people can complete the software on any online device. And there's also an app for iOS and Android if you want to set up stuff online as well. The platform for data collection has an admin tool in it as well. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but it has email management. You can let people join the survey through links. You can use QR codes. It doesn't have website integration yet, so you can't integrate it with a website, but that is coming very soon. That will be available in the next few months. It has a blacklist as well, so if people don't want to take part in your surveys, particularly I'm thinking of customer feedback surveys here, where somebody has said that they don't want any more surveys. So even though they join the database as just had a transaction with a company, you don't want to send them out another survey. And you have also do not disturb emails, by which I mean that if they've been surveyed in a certain recency, you can stop them being surveyed again. So they may have been surveyed, you might want to set that to 3 months so they don't get a survey again for 3 months unless they until that 3 months has elapsed. And you can have a do not disturb in there as well, so that that's automatically means they don't get a survey until that time has been hit. So we come to perhaps one of the most important parts of dashboarding. It's the bit that people don't see. Most people are interested in dashboards, are always interested in what it looks like and what it's like to use. Has it been well thought out? I've written several blog articles on what makes a good dashboard, because I think there is a skill in putting the right information out. This platform will let you do everything you want to do with your dashboard. So if you want for the same client to deliver different aspects of the dashboard, so to use the sort of classical way of presenting this, so that the CEO just sees the top numbers, somebody else sees a certain level of data, down to your regional managers seeing just their data, down to the individuals perhaps only seeing what they work on. You can manage that all within the platform. There's a huge section in there for managing who can see what within even one dashboard, and the point they enter it and the level of detail they get access to. So all of that is controllable. But one of the things that I think is totally underestimated when it comes to producing online dashboards is the data management that goes into it. And if you've never been involved in producing a dashboard, that's quite a hard thing to explain, because data management isn't terribly exciting, but it's a very important part of the process. And I've written the question to myself here, does it matter? Well, yes, it does, if you want to produce what I would call a practical commercial dashboard that you can deliver to a client. If you just want some automated quick dashboard, which I said some of the low-cost online platforms do offer, no, you probably don't, because you can't do much with them in any way. It will be something that's automatically generated, and there is no data management except perhaps choosing which variables that you're going to make accessible in the dashboard and what charts you're going to put up. So it'd be very limited what you can do. If you want to start getting to a higher level and automating the whole flow, so whether it's just something like a tracking study where you want to automate the dashboard so it automatically updates with the next wave of data without you doing much more than clicking any buttons. If you want to merge in other business data, if you want to put data from 2 surveys together, which I think is something that's pretty much underutilized. I think as an industry, we tend to treat each survey independently, and I think there's value if you do 2 surveys for a client to put that information together in one dashboard. If you want to do those sorts of things, data management is actually more important than I think most people will appreciate. So putting together MR and non-MR data, I think elevates your MR data. I said that at the beginning, but I think it's something that really is worth taking quite seriously and considering. And I think it's important, if you want to merge other business data, to be able to take data as it comes. IT departments are notoriously a sort of block in big companies. So if you're working for a bank, for example, and you want to plug in some data, some other business data that the bank has, it's better by a mile, in my opinion, by a long way, to take the data as it comes, or in the most convenient form from the IT department. If you start to say that, well, to plug that data into my dashboard, you'll need to lay it out on a spreadsheet like this or something else, or in an Access database or as a SQL Server file that looks like this, you will find that the IT department will never let it get to the top of their list. So it's much better to say, okay, the bank wants that data in the dashboard to go alongside your survey data. Just say to the IT department, give it to us how you can. We'll worry about the data management, the data manipulation, so it ends up in the dashboard as you want it. Leave it to us. And that's really one of the sort of central points, if you like, of the CYS platform, in the sense it can do anything you want with your data to merge it, to merge it together with other data, to perhaps recode it, to reject it if it's not valid, or whatever it might be, to build in rules and so on. So make sure you don't start asking IT departments for things, because they won't do it typically. And you need to be sure that data you're loading is correct. So it's got tools in there that if you do want to recode data, you set it up once and that rule is applied forevermore. If you want to merge in a new source of data, you can connect it up, but you need to be sure that your data you're loading is correct. So you can put checks in there, for example, that if you're expecting not less than 1,000 respondents from a new wave of your survey, it could check that. And that's a very simple example. If it only loaded 2 up and then proceeded to update the dashboard, that will be probably quite a crisis that you'll be having phone calls with your client fairly quickly after that. So you can put checks in the CYS platform to ensure that what you're uploading, particularly automatically, is as you would expect it and has all the fields you expect, for example, and no one's made a mistake. So the data management platform has that multi-channel capability. It can put your data together, it can restructure your data, and it can apply rules to data. So that sort of sums up the 4 things that it can do when it comes to data management. And they are, as I say, really important and easily underestimated. I sound like a bit of a know-it-all when I say that, but it really is one of those things that I think that, that has to be considered seriously if you want to get into dashboards. This is what the CYS platform looks like. So here you can see I've got 5 sources of data, and it tells me how many variables and how many records I've got for each one. So the first one here has got just over 100,000 records with 19 variables in there, and so on for the other 5 sources in there. And it's got an interface in there so that you can join these these variables together. So for example, if you're producing regional analysis, for example, what's called region in one file might be called something else in another file. So you can tell the dashboard that the sales data that's come from your client, where they use I don't know, XYZ underscore region as the field name, is the same as the variable in your survey data called region. So it's got to pull that together as one and treat it as one when it comes to analysis. So that's a sort of simple example of how you sort of link and join data together. And that's a sort of quick look at the interface as to what it is. You just drag these things into the project database. And so in CYS terms, a project is made up of one or more data sources. It can be one data source, and maybe for some projects, But for more complex projects, that can be a number of sources. And of course, that one source can be continually updated. So to take a tracking study, I think tracking studies are one of the few things that have gone into dashboards in market research, maybe multi-country studies sometimes as well. But they tend to be the only projects that have been big enough to have a budget to put into an online dashboard. Tracking studies, you can just have the data feed either feed in automatically, or when you manually click to upload it and release it, you can choose how you do it. But you can use the CYS platform to get data in real time, for example, so that all the feeds are updated automatically as survey data is collected. So that's all perfectly possible, and that update can be as frequent as you want to. There's no fees for that or anything. It's just all automatic. And here's a somewhat bigger dashboard. This dashboard's got several sources of data with some quite big ones in there, 700,000 and so on. And some of the feeds haven't come in yet. These are on naught. They're waiting for their data to come in. But you can see you can manage literally hundreds of, well, not hundreds, but probably, I think someone's got 30 or 40 data feeds in one of their dashboards. So the data administration side of the platform, it's got a very high level of security. That sort of goes without saying, perhaps in these modern times, but it's got the highest levels of security. For project control, you can assign different levels of access for each user. So you can, as an administrator, you can let different people work on different projects and different parts of those projects as well. So you might let somebody in data processing load data and someone else build the dashboards on the back, but you can choose who does what and so on. And you've got data checks in there, which, as I explained, you can check you've got the right number of records, the right number of variables, a field is always set to a value, and so on. For the dashboard itself, you can have different access levels. So I used the example of earlier where you have perhaps a board level that go in and just see the overview of the business, and then perhaps the research managers or research directors would have a different access level, and then perhaps regional managers will get a different access level again to look at just perhaps their own team or whatever it might be. So all those different levels of access to the dashboard can be managed within the platform, so that they see different things, they start at different places, and they get different access to different depths of data, or perhaps just their own data. And in some cases, just even individual. This is also used for employee research, where the individual can see a little dashboard about their own results, comparing that to people within their different groups. But they can't see, obviously, another individual's data. They can only see their own individual data compared to others. So that's another use of it as well. So let's come to the dashboards themselves. Clearly, dashboards need to be very flexible. It's important that you display your data in a way that's recognizable to the users. Dashboards are no good if you put them in a form that that they don't understand, or uses terminology or displays that are not familiar with them. This platform has a really huge number of widgets so that you can produce, I think, pretty much anything you want to, and indeed you can even do customized infographics as well. So a huge number of tools. So let's look at one or two things that you can do. So I've got a selection of different snapshots here from different dashboards, and you'll quickly get from that. This is the top half of a screen here where there's a dashboard. You can obviously set the background. There's a man with his left arm in the air there as the background. Not quite sure what he's doing, but he's doing something. But you can show figures in different ways. You can show things as infographics. You can have some text assigned as well to explain what the data is showing, if you want to do that. And you can also upload documents at this part of the dashboard. So it's much more of a platform than just a dashboard. You can upload documents that support what you're doing. So you could, if you did have a PowerPoint report that was a management report, for example, that could be something that people could download. And you can also have an action list as well. So if it's perhaps used for customer satisfaction, for example. Perhaps you're working for a car dealership or something like that. You could send you could give an action list for each car dealership based on the results of their survey, so that they would then have to check off that they had taken the actions that were appropriate in the light of the results that they'd had for the previous quarter's data. So they might need to improve their invoicing procedures or something like that because the score was not high enough. So it's not just a series of charts and figures, this online dashboarding, it's an access to report, it's a portal effectively for access to reports and to take actions as in light of that, the research that you've done. And some more infographics here to show things in different ways, charts, bars, that roundy thing down the bottom there with 10 in the middle, and some other infographics there. So you can show things by period, you can show different scores. You really can put out what you want to. There is no real limits in here. Dials, quite popular way of doing things. You can also put targets, of course, on those dials if you think there's a target that everybody should reach. Obviously, smiley faces, everybody likes smiley faces. If you want stuff that's just sort of, like banks of figures, because that's what the user wants in the dashboard, it's got all the tools to do that. So sometimes dashboards, particularly for people working on the detail, they want to be able to look at the figures behind that and view those figures. And some more different charts here, top 5 you want to show and the bottom 5, for example. So all sorts of different things that you can put onto a dashboard here, and so on. So this has now got a sort of mixture of data, and obviously you can drill down into these. So if you want to just filter this on males, you can filter it on males, and the whole dashboard refreshes automatically. And just another one there with some different league tables, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and some charts here with some explanations of the text as well. And you can put open-ended text out there if you wanted to put some open-ended out text to perhaps explain something. So whatever it is you want in your dashboard, you've got those tools in CYS. If you want to try that out for yourself, you're very welcome to take a trial of the software and see that it does for you. All you got to do is get it set up. We'll help you get it set up so that you can do just that. And then we finally come on to custom infographics, and I think these sorts of things really do bring data to life for clients. It gives you a chance to resonate with your client because they think about their business in a certain way. So this is a way that a particular client thought of their customer journey. That's how they internally have talked about their customer journey for their particular business. And so what was used for this particular dashboard was pretty much mocking up exactly what they had used internally in preparation for the way they wanted to change the way they dealt with their customers. And so this infographic came from that. And the way that this is developed in the CYS platform is actually quite simple. That once you've got this infographic design, this can be designed in Photoshop or anything else. Once you've got this infographic designed, you upload it into the platform. It needs to be saved as an SVG file, not a JPEG, but an SVG file. And that SVG file, for those who don't know about SVG files, gives you access to everything on. So it basically digitizes this whole page here, so that you can put anything you want to on top of it or in it on the page. So for example, you want to drop these figures here, which all say 25 at the moment. You want to drop your figures from your data exactly there, and a figure exactly there, a figure exactly there. So you can choose exactly where they go. And if you wanted to put some text out, you could obviously put some text in here to explain that if you wanted to as well. So the process is that you can design your infographic in whatever it is you use to design infographics, then turn it into an SVG file, and then you can plant, as it were, those figures into your infographic with anything else that you want conditional on that. And so that's the code that comes from an SVG file. I wasn't going to be technical today, but that's the code. You can just see at the bottom here, the infographic, but that's the SVG code. And you can just edit this and place into here the figures that you want to pull in. And it's actually, it looks complex there, but it's actually quite simple to do. So that's just sort of showing you a list of how you can access the variables in there to plug into that infographic. I didn't know I left that slide in, actually. I thought I'd hidden that. All right, well, that's where I'm going to stop at this stage. I've covered quite a bit. I haven't covered much on the data collection side today. That's a sort of separate topic. I have talked about data management. I have talked about delivering dashboards and some of the things that you need to think about. I do think that CYS is, if it is the first of a new generation of software, I think it's the first. It is a game changer. There's nothing on the market at that price that does what it does, and I really do think it means that you can, for the first time, afford to put pretty much every market research project in a dashboard for your clients, which I think will mean that, to use what I said before, MR will be more valuable if it is delivered better. And I think this gives you an opportunity to deliver it better. So at that point, I'm going to take a break. I'm happy to take any questions. I should have said at the beginning, and I failed, there is a Q&A box on your screen. If you'd like to type any questions into that, Lauren, who's also on the call with me, will put those questions to me, and I'll do my best to answer them. I should say that if you want to take a trial of this software, I'll come back to that at the end, and we can certainly facilitate that. So, Lauren, have we got any questions that have come in so far?
We've just had one question.
Okay.
It is, what is the main differentiator between low cost sort of budget dashboards and the CYS platform?
Okay, well, I mean, I did touch on the low cost ones, I think, once during the presentation, and perhaps didn't go into great depth on that. I mean, there are some, I've got nothing against low cost ones. They do what they do, and I think they're very good at converting online survey data into something that people can view online, and they're certainly a step in the right direction, I think, for the market research industry. Where you want, the problem is the next step up is a big step up. So if you want something that's a bit more than just your survey data, you need something that's got much more capability in terms of what I keep coming back to, data management. Not perhaps in choice of how you do it, although the advanced infographics I showed you at the end there wouldn't be possible, obviously, in a free or low cost online dashboard system, or system that had an online dashboard plugged into the end of it. It really comes back down to the data management side to a great extent, and customized infographics. They're probably the two biggest differentiators. And as I said, I think it's okay being able to put the data from your survey into a dashboard, but it just carries so much more weight if you can put more into it. Whether that's data from 2 surveys that you happen to run for that client, that pulling that together into one infographic can be quite powerful, because it's it's utilized. Or if another company's done some research and it was contracted to a different company, getting hold of that data and plugging the top line figures alongside your survey that you've conducted for a company can be very powerful, because it's now giving them a better picture all in one place. And we get everyone talks about how there's too much data in the world now, and there is, and it is all about, when it comes down to it, putting the valuable data in front of the people who want it and having that data available. And the more you can do that as a research agency, I think the more value you become as a research supplier. So I think it's, putting data together from surveys, putting other business data together is a really important part. I think the advanced infographic stuff, I think, is also important. It just gives a much more polished look to what you're delivering. And I think, it's all very well having 3 or 4 charts that come out that that represent brand shares or something like that. That's okay, but I think you get a lot more if you start to fit that into a context that means something to the client that's going to use it, and lets them drill down as well into different levels of data there, so they can see what different demographic groups are doing, and whether their behavior is different, or their purchase intentions are different, or whatever it might be. So I think it's it's sort of depth and data management, and there's also, it is also the flexibility of the dashboarding as well, because the CYS platform comes with so many widgets to put out your dashboard in any way you want to. I almost guarantee you'll find one that will that meets what you want to convey to your customers and make it usable. So I think there's quite a big gap, but that's not to say they have a place in the market. I'm a great believer then that every bit of software has a place in the market, and I think they have their place. But I think this is quite a different sort of level to what they're offering. Are there any other questions?
That's it.
That's it, is it? Okay. All right, well, just going to wrap up then in that case, and just to say that, if you're interested in learning more about dashboards, we do have some blog articles on our blog. I hope we can perhaps send those links out with our mail out that we do of the recording of this video after the session, but there's some advice there on things you should think about in terms of making a dashboard more usable and things like that, which I think are important, because these are perhaps new skills to some people. If you're experienced with dashboards, that may not be the case. But I would certainly commend you taking a trial of this software to see whether you think, as a result of using it, you'll be able to offer your clients more and better value. The usual way we work is that if you want to give us some survey data, we'll plug it in for you, so that then you can get on with the business of perhaps pulling in some other data and doing a dashboard, so you can actually start to see what you can deliver. We'll obviously teach you how to import data and manage data, and what some of the more difficult things are when you want to merge data together. There are tutorials to do that, but I always recommend that people if we load the data up for you so it's ready for you to start building a dashboard, you'll learn a lot more about it more quickly, and then we'll take you back to the beginning phase, which is, if you're interested in setting up questionnaires in the system and getting your data in that way, we'll take you through that, and we'll talk about some of the more advanced things you can do with data as well. So yeah, if you're interested, please just drop me an email, or one of us an email. There'll be an email going out after this, and we'll get that trial set up. And there is a free 1 month trial. You can use this software on a monthly or annual basis. You do get a better price if you commit to a year, but we've got a lot of customers who have taken it for 3 months when it hasn't cost them very much. It's cost them something like about £1,000, I think, $1,000 rather, or just over $1,000 to take it for 3 months. That's the full system for 3 months. I think that's 3 projects. And when they're satisfied with that, they've then gone on to the annual contract and plugged in more projects, and get a slightly better deal on that then, and perhaps take some of the more larger packages, so you can do any number of users, any number of people using it, and so on. So it's a system you can start with quite cheaply, with very low risk, if that's how you see it, but would be a good investment, and you can then get the annual prices and do better at it in the long term. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much for joining me today. Next week we have a webinar, or in our Kwiklearn series, which is on the 5 uses of Snap, which is going to cover a whole range of things, from collecting data through to reporting data. One of MRDC's big moves in the next year or so has really been to give you choice in how you can automate your reporting and provide your data in different ways. We've very much focused in perhaps the last 5 years on productivity. We're now really focusing on giving you choice on how you deliver and automate your reporting, and there's some really nice tools coming in the next year. I know MRDCL is going to have a new module that will automatically put your data into PowerPoint and to put stuff into this dashboard later this year as well, so that everything can be automated. So we're looking at Snap next week, and I hope you join us for that. But for now, thank you for joining me. Hope you have a good day.